I have a bit of bad news if you are either playing or watching your favourite streamers play Rinse and Repeat, which is a rather interesting shower sim which has been described by Eurogamer as, quote, a funny yet poignant shower sim about various aspects of gay culture and man's relationship to video games. Now unfortunately, this game has now been banned from Twitch. Now naturally, the developer and creator of this game is none too pleased about this particular development, and has spoken rather vocally about it on his blog and discussed the issues with Twitch's policy regarding nudity. Now, I haven't actually played this game, so I just want to get that out of the way, but still, I find his comments interesting, and I do find myself agreeing with the base points, even if, of course, I don't know how well they apply to the game, because I haven't played it. I can still kind of agree with the point of what he's saying. So what did he actually have to say for himself? He said, quote, on one hand, it's extremely validating as an artist to be acknowledged as dangerous. Thanks, Twitch. On the other hand, the Twitch policy about sex and nudity is shitty, and I'm going to complain about why I hate it and feel it's unfair, and also really unhealthy for video games as an art form. He then cited Twitch's rules regarding nudity, which reads, sexually explicit acts or content, nudity can't be a core focus or feature of the game in question, and modded nudity is disallowed in its entirety. Occurrences in-game are okay, as long as you do not make them a primary focus of your stream and only spend as much time as needed in that area to progress the game's story. And he went on to say, quote, this is a blanket ban on any game that is popular enough to get Twitch's management's attention and heavily features nudity. It erases the context of the work and ignores how the nudity is presented, instead focusing on a nonsensical formal distinction where nudity is okay if it's only a fraction of the game. Then Yang went on to touch on the topic how it's kind of insulting how Twitch provides these same parameters to all games regardless of context. Context is very important. He then went on to say, quote, this equivocation is offensive to me when I focus heavily on ideas of consent, boundaries, bodies and respect in my games. But what really pisses me off is that my games actually earn their nudity and cannot function as artistic works without it. Then here comes Twitch, which argues that some blue alien chick boobs in Mass Effect are okay to broadcast because they're obviously there for some bullshit titillation. That's totally unnecessary exploitative bullshit of Dead or Alive babes or Metal Gear Solid's Quiet is somehow more appropriate than a game about consensually scrubbing a guy's back. While we're at it, let's add a dash of systemic homophobia into the mix. He then rightfully pointed out that Vimeo and YouTube both have more reasonable rules regarding nudity. Vimeo basically allows it as long as it serves a clear creative, artistic, aesthetic or narrative purpose, which from the sounds of what I've read and seen on YouTube etc, this one does do. Of course I haven't played it, so I'm not going to stand by that, don't quote me on that, but it does seem like it from what I've read. And YouTube similarly has a similar policy saying, quote, a video that contains nudity or other sexual content may be allowed if the primary purpose is to educational, documentary, scientific or artistic and isn't gratuitously graphic. And Yang went on to say, quote, gamers want so desperately for games to function as art, to witness games about the depths of human experience. And here is Twitch, a crucial platform in games culture that had 44% live streaming market share in 2014, insisting no, games should only ever snicker about sex and nudity, like some stoned tweens clutching smuggled Hot Pockets in the back of a movie theatre. The idea that nudity and sex are allowed on Twitch only when it's tangential and exploitative is a fucking disgrace. It sends conservative messages for what is allowed to be a real game, and discourages artistic experimentation from developers for fear of being banned from Twitch. If Twitch wants to exercise some leadership here and add some nuance to the policy to allow for a case-by-case artistic consideration, that'd be great. Or, you know, Twitch can keep clutching its Hot Pockets and keep treating my games exactly the same as super gross, exploitative rape simulator fantasies. As I said, I haven't played this game, but he makes some very good points. I personally believe that games are a potential platform for art. Not every game has to be art. It's perfectly fine, and you know, most of the time this is the case that a game is just there for fun or to explore certain ideas, or hey, here's a 2D platformer set in this world, this might be interesting to you. That's perfectly fine, but there is the potential there for games to be art, and we have several games that I would consider art, such as say Ico or Shadow of the Colossus, and it sounds weird, but Papers, Please could kind of be considered it as well, given the topics that it discusses. I think that games are Of course, there are some games that are for kids or for younger audiences, but a lot of games, the big games, are for older audiences, and because of that, a appropriately rated game should be able to discuss adult themes, and some nudity should be allowed to be shown in proper context. Of course, a hentai game, or as he said, those gross, super exploitative rape simulator fantasies, absolutely not, but in games of where they're trying to touch on topics where the nudity is a core part of the message they're trying to send, the topic they're trying to discuss, that shouldn't be lumped in with a game such as those gross rape simulator fantasies, as he rightfully pointed out. He makes some good points, and context is everything. And it does matter, especially in such an interactive medium. I've always found it a bit funny that gratuitous violence is okay pretty much all the time unless it's something really, really out there. It has to really push the boundaries to even be considered offensive, and even then it'd just be something that'd be kept behind the counter or whatever most of the time. But when you show nudity, suddenly, oh no, we can't have that, think of the children. It's like, no, let's be adult about this. Let's at least allow the potential to discuss these topics. That's how I've always felt. As I said, I don't know if this game is art. I don't know if it's any good. I've never played it. I probably will be playing it now that I should know about it. I didn't know about it before this, to be honest. But it's a little bit silly, and to be honest, although Twitch probably won't change their policy, and they basically their statement is that they don't comment on terms of service violations, basically says they're not going to consider changing it. And it's a shame, but it's a big deal. If you can't be streamed on Twitch, your game cannot be streamed on Twitch, while you still can make sales, of course, not even banned from Steam or whatever, it still is limiting coverage of your game severely. Severely. Twitch is the biggest gaming streaming service. Of course, YouTube Gaming just launched, and it looks pretty good. A lot of comments are saying it's a lot better, because of a lot of features like HTML5, etc. So, perhaps one day that will change, but for now, most people still go straight to Twitch. And if you can't have your game streamed on Twitch, that's a big problem. So, I don't know, we're going to have to see, but regardless of all that, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I personally think he has some good points, but I'd love to hear your opinions. Do let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.